So just a few hours before I recorded this, KSI announced that he's going to be fighting Dillon Danis, and I kind of find it absolutely insane that of all of the people to get KSI out of hiding, to get Dillon Danis out of hiding, it's KSI. Like, Dillon Danis has had beef with the Paul brothers. I believe, like, they were driving past each other's houses and, like, throwing bottles. I don't know if anyone remembers that. He had beef with Chris Avila, a Bellator fighter. He had beef with that guy very recently. That's a former MMA fighter. I believe he's a former Bellator fighter as well. It's just had a lot of beef with UFC and MMA fighters in general. A lot of people don't really seem to like this guy because he's a menace on social media. And of all of the people for Dillon Danis to come out and fight, it's KSI in a boxing match, which is just as random as it sounds. On January 14th in London, in a pretty big arena as well, 12,500 person capacity, which is interesting. I thought maybe they could sell out like a 15,000 person arena because it is KSI, it's in London. I don't really know how much of a draw he is for people to casually watch his boxing, but apparently he sells the tickets really cheap, is what I've heard, which probably draws a lot of people in to watch the fights. But what a weird fight to talk about now. We're talking about Dillon Danis taking on KSI, and I want to actually know how many rounds the fight is. It won't affect the prediction. The prediction is actually KSI, but I will say one thing. If it was Jake Paul fighting Dillon Danis, the attitude would be completely different. And that's just a fact, because everyone seems to hate on Jake Paul. Like, KSI is out here fighting Swarms, a rapper that took the fight on short notice. And, like, I think his name was, like, Luis Pineda or something like that, who was a 2-5 professional opponent. And KSI was fighting this 2-5 professional opponent. And people were saying, KSI is fighting a real boxer. In reality, he was fighting a boxer with a 2-5 record. And when you got a losing record like that, I wouldn't be surprised if he was just paid to lose. Like, in that whole fight, he's just trying to get a way out. He's claiming back of the headshots. He's claiming this and that. If we move on, I just think it's very strange that I feel like a lot of people would have a different attitude towards Jake Paul fighting Danis than KSI's fighting Danis. But we move on from that. It is what it is. And it's going to be an interesting fight. It's 6 rounds. I don't know if that benefits anyone really, because Dillon Danis, as I said, he hasn't fought for 3 years. And I guarantee you this. Since 2019, mid-2019, when he last had his MMA fight, I guarantee you Dillon Danis has not been training boxing consistently. Maybe he's trained boxing because maybe he was rumoured to fight someone in a boxing match or whatever. But he hasn't been training boxing hardcore since 2019, when I can guarantee you something for a fact here. KSI has at least been training boxing since the start of 2018, end of 2017. You know, like, this guy, he's actually taking boxing a lot more serious than I feel like Dillon Danis has. And I think that's why KSI is probably going to win the matchup, because he's a boxer. Dillon Danis is a grappler, and he's actually a very good grappler at that. Well, when it comes to boxing, we haven't seen much of his striking in MMA. Both of his wins are by first round submission. One of them only took him a minute and a half to get, because, as I said, he's a good grappler. But his boxing, we don't know what his boxing is going to be like. It's not like I can sit down here and give you a detailed breakdown of what Dillon Danis is going to bring to the game with his boxing style, because we don't know what it's going to be like. This guy's never fought in a boxing fight before, at least with KSI. We kind of know what we can expect. He does have a decent amount of power, but he is fighting guys he should be beating. Like, he fought Swarms, he fought Logan Paul those years ago, and Logan Paul, I guess, has kind of turned out to be like not a terrible boxer. I mean, he went the distance with Mayweather, which I know, like, Mayweather was playing around with him. I can't believe I'm saying this, actually, and KSI's brother got finished by Mayweather pretty quickly, but I can't believe I'm saying this. Mayweather, KSI, Logan Paul, in the same conversation makes sense in 2022 that they've been boxing each other. Let's just move on from that. I'm 4 minutes in. I'm going to talk about the Misfits cards just in general, because it's going to be taking place. It's going to headline a Misfits X DAZN card. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I kind of don't mind watching these because they're so entertaining. The boxing fights are pretty low level, and I will get to that later on. But if you look at this from not a hardcore boxer standpoint, because I know a lot of people hate these cards, I think it's ruining the integrity of boxing, this and that. But you kind of got to see it from my point of view. These guys are fighting each other on a completely separate sort of situation to, like, professional world championship boxers that are trying to build a name for themselves, prospects, this and that. They're not fighting on the same card. They're completely separate. They're doing their own thing, and it's kind of like a cool way of, it's just kind of cool. Like, I know it sounds weird, but I don't really mind watching these cards. They're so low level, but they're so entertaining. I mean, I don't actually know who any of these guys are, really, except for Greg Hardy, obviously, and Hasim Rahman Jr. was meant to fight Jake Paul, but I don't really know who these guys are. I had to Google them before they fought, and most of them are like TikTokers and YouTubers. I don't have TikTok, so I have no idea what's going on with them, but they're fun. Like, this first fight wasn't that great. They both completely gassed, but Brandon Buckingham versus Baldino was kind of awesome. It was so low level. They're throwing punches like this. But it was a first round finish, that's fun. First round finish, that's fun. First round finish, Greg Hardy and Hasim Rahman Jr. had on an awesome fight. Second round finish, and then a third round finish. There's so many finishes on these cards. It's just entertainment. You just gotta view it as entertainment, not serious boxing. I understand if you disagree with me, but if you see this as just entertainment and you watch it with the intention of being entertained and not the intention of like scrutinizing what these guys are doing in the ring, because that's kind of how I started. This is actually the first Misfits card I've ever watched, and the only reason why I watched it was because I thought Hasim Rahman Jr. was gonna destroy Greg Hardy. I was very wrong, but anyways, I started watching it. I was like, man, this is so low level. This is so hard to watch. But then when it kind of got around to Thomas Oliveira's KO, and then this guy's KO, I was like, man, like, this is kind of fun, you know, like, this is kind of cool. And then this fight here, Josh Brookner had like an 8-0 amateur MMA record, which is cool, and he looked pretty good. Chase Moore didn't really have anything for him, and I was just kind of like, this is kind of fun to watch. Like, I know it sounds so degenerate, and it is such a degenerate point of view. I'm just a degenerate fighting fan. Like, I love UFC, man. I watch UFC every weekend. I watch Bellator every time it's on. I watch LFA every time it's on. And all the smaller promotions, I kind of watch them when I get round to them, or I pick at little fights that I want to watch. But when it comes to like these Misfit cards, I've only ever seen one of them. But I was sitting there, man, and I was like, I started hating it. I was like, this is terrible. I understand why no one likes watching it. I'm just gonna stick around for the Greg Hardy fight. And the Greg Hardy fight happened. And then, like, it just kind of got interesting to me. It was entertaining. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I actually enjoyed watching it. It was so weird. It was so weird. What an experience. But KSI taking on Dillon Danis in 2023, January 14th. Mark your calendar. It should be fun. It'd be interesting to see what people say about it. So far, the reception hasn't been very positive. A lot of people seem to want Dillon Danis to get beaten up, and I think that's what's going to happen. But a lot of people are kind of like, this is weird. I've seen some people saying that KSI is ducking Tyron Woodley, but apparently there was like some sort of issues with sorting out the weight on that end, so they're not fighting each other. But what a weird situation. Does he have Knockout King? Is that Knockout King tattooed on his chest? Or is this Knockout? Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm going to leave you to it there. I just thought I'd better make a video on this, give my opinion on it. Misfit boxing, I understand why people hate it, but I don't really mind it. I just find it funny. It's so entertaining to watch, and it's bringing more eyes to the sport of boxing, which I don't think can be a bad thing, you know what I mean? And then, yeah, I think KSI is just going to work Danis here. He's just a better boxer from what I've seen. Maybe Dillon Danis has secretly been training boxing the whole time. He's just going to come out here and look like a really good boxer. But I think when it comes down to it, man, I think KSI is just going to beat him. I just genuinely think that's what's going to happen. Dillon Danis is a pretty big guy. He's like slightly taller than KSI, but they did a face-off and they looked kind of the same height. I don't know. I think it's going to be a fun fight. I think KSI should beat him. And then when KSI beats him, he's probably gonna like call out MMA fans or something and say, "Oh, you better respect me now that I beat like someone that you guys don't like." But anyway, hopefully that video wasn't too long. I'll leave you at it. See you later.